Hello, welcome back, PlayBasic coders. Let's look at revision 8. We're adding billboarding today to PolyWolf. There we have it. We've got a bunch of other things in the scene as well. We've got this mech character thing and what I believe is Mario somewhere. There he is down there. These were meshes, MD2 meshes that I found. I haven't actually included that into here. I must do that actually. Just found that they're a good source for objects with low poly counts and simple texturing, that kind of thing. It would probably make more sense to load them into here, but our billboarding is working, which is the sprite characters in here. Had a problem with this earlier today. I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. It's not working how I remember. But anyway, nonetheless, got some simple sprites in. They don't react to things like changes of draw mode, mainly because of transparency. So these are textured quads in these scenes, and they would need to be sprites actually. Here's our billboard function. We're drawing a billboard character to the camera. It's pretty rough. It's all been thrown together really. Once we get through here, we worked out where we are in front of the camera or not. Work out its size on screen, and then we go to draw it to the buffer. So we're using a textured quad, so we've got one polygon. If we use multiple polygons and we rotate this thing, we get distortion, all kinds of side effects we don't really want. The trouble with this is that texture quad and texture tri have a little bit of ink mode support. In other words, if there are some ink modes where you can actually set those things up to do stuff. I think it's like I think 64's Alpha Edition. I haven't tried this one. Let's just see what we get. Yeah, so it's being added to the buffer. They're all being added so that they look like ghostly. So for that regard there, that's feasible. What's 128? I think it's subtraction. Yeah, it's like they end up ghosted out. Ooh. It's kind of a crazy thing to look at. That's fine for things like alpha addition or alpha subtraction. I think there's also an alpha level in there too. But if you wanted to do things like tinting the character, in other words, having it fade with the environment based on its distance from the camera, or depth cueing, you need to make this a sprite. And that really all you would do is you would use the scaling values here, create a temporary sprite, position it at its on-screen location, apply the scale, the scale, the width and height to it, and apply the texture, and then set the draw mode to tint mode, and then set the RGB for that thing there. So there is a fair bit of work going on to do that. Ideally, what you would do is you'd have like a cache of pre-created sprites that are all set to invisible, and then as they're used, each one is used like positioned into the scene, given its position, texture and size, and then captured into the current scene. And then when the camera is drawn, all of that data is sorted and then rendered in painters from back to front for you. Because there's no Z buffering. This is the whole point of this, is there's no Z buffering. So it's just a straight poly sort. That's all we're doing. So it's another way of recreating the Wolf 3D thing and adding some polygonal stuff on top of that. But to have sprites that are affected by the environment, or billboards affected by the environment, they would need to be renders sprites and use the draw mode system through sprites, because the straight texturing stuff doesn't really have provision for doing that. Internally, there is a draw mode where you can have a transparent texture and add a ground. Yeah, add ground shading on top of that, which is how you do the depth queuing, really. But it's not available through here. Not quite sure why, but it's just not. I guess really the problem with that kind of stuff there is you're adding another. So each vertex would actually have its screen space position, its texture, coordinates, and a color. So you end up with 22 parameters for one command. It's a lot of parameters. Like, I actually think that having this many parameters for one command is probably pushing it too much, really. It's pretty error prone when you do that stuff. The alternative would be having like a pointer to the vertice and this data here. So you pass it 4 pointers to where the vertex data is, and then it fetches that data and renders the quad in this case for you. But that's it. Alrighty dudes, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.